Welcome to Farm Life Daily, where we dig deep into the stories shaping our world. One seed, one root, one leaf at a time. Today, we invite you to pause, to close your eyes for a moment, and envision a chilling historical truth. For well over a century, the collective might of humankind, our sharpest scientific minds, our vast financial resources, our most powerful machines, even the very chemicals forged in the crucible of wartime, was systematically deployed against a single resilient species of tree. This wasn't merely a campaign. It was a crusade. We branded it a green cancer, demonized it as a water thief, and dismissed it as a stubborn obstacle to progress. Yet, in a twist of fate so profound it borders on the poetic, the bitter irony now reveals itself. This very tree, once relentlessly targeted, condemned, and nearly eradicated, may actually be the pivotal key to humanity's survival. In a future world that looms hotter, drier, and immeasurably more unforgiving, its quiet resilience might be our only hope. This isn't simply the narrative of a botanical specimen. It is a profound testament to the indelible memory of the land itself, to the boundless patience of nature, and to a monumental, century-long miscalculation by humanity. For generations, across the vast, parched expanse of arid lands, governments and burgeoning industries waged what can only be described as an unprecedented ecological war. They harbored a deep-seated conviction that this thorny, tenacious tree was a malevolent force, ruthlessly draining vital underground aquifers, stifling the growth of essential grasses for grazing, and inflicting painful injuries upon valuable livestock with its sharp spines. Driven by this belief, they unleashed an arsenal of destruction. They incinerated vast stands of these trees with fuel, scarring the earth with fire. They ripped colossal specimens from the soil using the brutal force of massive steel chains, dragged by powerful machinery. And, with a terrifying indifference, they sprayed potent poisons from the sky, hoping to blanket the landscape in death. Millions upon millions of hectares were violently torn apart, their delicate ecosystems shattered. Millions of dollars were consumed in this relentless war. And yet, defying all efforts, the tree stubbornly refused to disappear. What the Crusaders failed to grasp in their ignorance and haste was that they were not merely battling a simple trunk rising from the ground. They were confronting an entire, exquisitely complex survival system, honed and perfected over millions of years of relentless evolution. Then, in the late 1990s, a remarkable discovery unfolded. Deep within the cool, silent embrace of a cave, a sanctuary untouched by the sun's rays for millennia, archaeologists unearthed ancient clay jars. These vessels, carefully sealed and forgotten in the eternal darkness, contained no elaborate written records, no grand stone monuments to forgotten kings or battles. Instead, they held only small, unassuming seeds, resting in perfect stillness for nearly 4,000 years. When these ancient seeds were carefully retrieved, brought back to the light, and planted with cautious hope, the impossible, the miraculous, occurred. They sprouted. New life, vibrant and determined, emerged from 4 millennia of slumber. This was no mere accident of chance. It was the stunning embodiment of an extraordinary biological design, a testament to life's inherent tenacity. This remarkable tree, in fact, predates the very arrival of humankind on Earth. It once flourished in an ancient world, standing tall alongside prehistoric giants, colossal creatures that roamed the land, feeding on its sweet, nourishing pods and inadvertently dispersing its precious seeds across immense, primeval landscapes. When the last great ice age finally receded, and those magnificent giants slowly vanished from the earth, the tree found itself alone in a world that was steadily, inexorably growing drier. By every conventional rule of nature, it should have faded into extinction. But instead of reaching for the heavens like its botanical brethren, it chose a different path. It committed itself to the earth. While other trees spread their branches wide, desperately competing for sunlight, this species delved deep into the very core of the planet. Its powerful roots, like tireless drills, pierced through layers of rock and compacted soil, extending far, far downward to tap into groundwater reserves that lay beyond the reach of nearly every other plant. Even more remarkably, this tree performed an astonishing feat of natural engineering. During the cool, silent hours of the night, as the parched ground temperature dropped, it would actively draw precious water from its deep subterranean reservoirs. Then, with a slow, deliberate grace, it would gently release this life-giving moisture back into the upper layers of the soil. In doing so, it became a silent benefactor, nourishing not only itself but also fostering a thriving, intricate ecosystem around it. The soil beneath its protective canopy became noticeably cooler, richer in nutrients, and teeming with more vibrant life. Countless other plants and creatures, from delicate wildflowers to burrowing insects, owed their very survival to the quiet, steadfast protection offered by this ancient tree. It is for this profound reason that ancient indigenous communities never perceived this tree as a mere resource to be exploited, but rather as a revered relative, a sacred tree of life, central to their existence. Its fruit, surprisingly, resembles elongated beans, yet harbors a natural sweetness that conjures images of golden honey, rich malt, and earthy nuts. Unlike countless other desert plants that have evolved bitter tastes and potent toxins as a defense against consumption, this tree, in an astounding evolutionary twist, developed to be eaten. Its pods are a treasure trove of soluble fiber, essential minerals, and rare amino acids, making them a powerhouse of nutrition. When ground into flour, they could be stored for extended periods without spoiling, a lifeline in times of scarcity. In the harshest, most unforgiving months, just before the eagerly anticipated seasonal rains would arrive, these precious pods would fall like a golden rain, sustaining entire communities through the leanest times. Thanks to the extraordinary bounty of this tree, people not only survived, but genuinely flourished in some of the most challenging and unforgiving landscapes on Earth. Then, a darker chapter began, the era of unchecked extraction. The prevailing goal shifted dramatically from a philosophy of harmony and balance with the land to a relentless pursuit of short-term economic gain. As large-scale ranching operations expanded aggressively across the arid regions, the ancient tree, once a revered relative, was arbitrarily declared an enemy, an impediment to profit. What those blinded by greed failed to comprehend was that every desperate attempt to destroy it only served to make it stronger, more defiant. When its trunk was brutally severed, it did not perish. Instead, a profusion of new, vigorous shoots erupted from its resilient base, forming even denser, more impenetrable thickets than before. When fire and heavy machinery proved insufficient to conquer its spirit, chemicals were unleashed, a vile rain of poisons. The very soil was contaminated, its life-giving properties tainted. Water sources became poisoned, rendering them deadly. Eventually, even the very authorities who had championed and led this destructive campaign were forced, with grudging reluctance, to admit outright defeat. The tree, they realized, simply could not be eradicated. By then, however, the ecological damage was undeniable, catastrophic. Without the tree's deep roots to anchor the precious topsoil, the land cracked into dusty fissures, eroding and blowing away with every gust of wind. Without its vital shade, the grasses withered and burned under the relentless sun. Livestock, lacking sustenance, starved in vast numbers. The entire, delicate ecological system collapsed, bringing once thriving communities to their knees. Decades later, in a slow but inevitable process, scientific understanding finally caught up with what the land itself had always known, quietly, patiently. The tree once so wrongly blamed for widespread destruction was, in fact, a tireless guardian, a benevolent architect of life. As a remarkable legume, it formed an intricate, symbiotic partnership with specific soil bacteria, enabling it to fix vital nitrogen directly from the air, transforming it into a rich, natural fertilizer. Wherever this tree grew, the soil beneath its influence became demonstrably richer, more fertile, and profoundly more alive. Entire, complex ecosystems, it was finally understood, depended utterly on its quiet presence. When the tree was systematically removed, the intricate ecological structure inevitably failed, unraveling into desolation. Simultaneously, a different, equally pressing crisis was sweeping across modern society. The unprecedented explosion of refined sugar consumption worldwide fueled a global epidemic of diabetes and widespread metabolic diseases, threatening public health on an unimaginable scale. Ironically, researchers, in their quest for solutions, unexpectedly found answers in the very tree that humanity had once so vehemently targeted for extermination. The natural sweetness inherent in its pods, they discovered, does not cause the dangerous spikes in blood sugar associated with processed sugars. This remarkable property is thanks to the high content of soluble fibers, which gently slow down digestion and nutrient absorption. It delivers a steady, sustained flow of energy, entirely free from the dreaded sugar crash. What was once contemptuously dismissed as a persistent weed had undergone a profound reevaluation, transforming into a highly valued superfood, celebrated not only for its exceptional nutritional profile but also for its profound ecological intelligence. Today, as the relentless specter of climate change inexorably expands the world's deserts, and as clean water becomes a commodity far more precious than gold, this ancient, resilient tree is being urgently reconsidered and enthusiastically embraced worldwide. It demands no irrigation, no costly synthetic fertilizers, and no harmful pesticides, embodying true low-input agriculture. Yet, it generously provides sustenance in the form of food, valuable timber, potent medicine, and crucial soil restoration, all simultaneously. In a world rapidly running out of resources, burdened by unsustainable practices, this extraordinary tree stands as a near-perfect blueprint, a living model for resilient, regenerative agriculture, offering hope where little existed before. This tree, in its quiet strength, never once abandoned humanity. It was humanity that, in its arrogance and short-sightedness, abandoned the tree. It simply waited for the life-giving water to run critically dry, waited for the inevitable bitter consequences of human hubris and ignorance to tragically unfold, waited patiently for that desperate moment when we, as a species, would be forced to pause and listen once again. The profound, sometimes painful lesson it so patiently teaches us is not an easy one to accept. In any war waged against the forces of nature, humanity will, without question, ultimately lose. But if we can find the wisdom to pause, to truly listen to the ancient whispers of the soil, to learn from the very land we inhabit, then, just perhaps, there may still be a way forward, a path towards healing and harmony. Thank you for staying with Farm Life Daily until the very end of this compelling story. If today's narrative has in any way shifted or deepened the way you think about our precious land, the vital role of trees, and the critical future we are collectively choosing, please consider showing your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. Your action helps ensure these essential, often forgotten stories can continue to be told, inspiring understanding and change. Until next time, keep cultivating wisdom,